Hello, audience. Hello, future audience, I should say. I'm assuming no one is in the Twitch chat. Welcome to the first ever stream of The Fiction Game, a variety tabletop role-playing game podcast. I am Jack. I'll be your host and game runner this evening. With me today are Hayden.
Hi.
Miles.
I'm here.
And Sam.
Hi.
And now we're just going to go the rest of the stream probably just pretending that we're just four guys in a group call, or three guys in a group call. We immediately lost Sam.
Great start.
We're just going to do a good session, and hopefully you'll have fun watching us. There's like a 50-50 shot that we just don't have the recording set up properly, and no one will ever see this. And I'd be fine with that, because this is practice. I consider this like a beta test situation. If this goes well, it'll be a miracle, and if it goes poorly, we'll probably keep playing the game until it's passable, and then we'll start telling people to tune in. I certainly didn't tell anyone to go to twitch.tv/thefictiongame today. Maybe someday. So that's where we're at. We can do introductions some other time. I'm eager to get into our first campaign. We're going to be playing so far the theory for the stream is we're going to have different a different system and a different setting just all the time, and we are going to experiment around with some things. And the first experiment is going to be for this campaign, we are going to, anytime I ask, it's going to be just like a normal tabletop role-playing game, but anytime I ask you guys, the players, a question like, what do you do? I'll give you several answers to choose from. That way you're never having to make up like what an informed character who actually lives in this setting would do with their knowledge base. You'll have options to choose from. And keep in mind that for everything except for character creation, which is going to have preset options, that's right, audience, the players don't know what characters they're going to be playing or anything about the setting, so hopefully I'll do a good job tutorializing it right here at the beginning. But we are going to... anytime outside of character creation, if I give you a couple options, there is an implicit other please specify option if you think you have a good idea. That's where the fun comes in. And that's where it's not just like picking the options that I type in for you. That's where it's not a video game, it's a tabletop role-playing game. But without further ado, let's get started on character creation. And I think we're going to come up to Hayden first. Hayden. Each of your characters is connected to the magic system in some way. The magic system of this world is defined by the 8 worlds outside of the mortal plane that each time, or anytime an inhabitant of one of these other worlds enters our world, that's what we call magic. So angels, demons, all these things come in. They leave behind monsters that are infused with energy from their world. They leave behind casters who have been given power by patrons from these other worlds. So your 3 options for the magic powers you start with, the way that you are connected to this magic system. You can be a symbiote druid. You use nature-fueled powers to empower yourself and others simultaneously. It's a big team player kind of option. You can be a witch. Witches' patrons are wraiths, and the witches control the powers of chaos, and their wraith patrons charge them with disrupting systems of injustice and oppression by sowing the seeds of chaos wherever they go. Or, last of all, you could be a frost sorcerer. Sorcerers are an interesting kind of magic user that learns how to channel elemental energy through dedication to a passion, which is usually some kind of art form. So your passion might be singing, painting, sculpting, or woodworking. And the more dedicated you are to that, the more your patron grants you these elemental magic powers. So again, that's symbiote druid, witch, or frost sorcerer. What do you want to start with?
I have a few questions.
Yes.
Do any of them come with, like,
bespoke personalities, like, and specific things that
Absolutely
personality-wise,
not.
am I free to feel kind of the edges? Okay.
Yes, and I should specify there are 4 phases to this character creation because I believe that a good
Okay,
literary
yeah,
character contains multitudes. So you're right. I should give a quick overview. I'm gonna make myself the main screen for this one. We're gonna get into it. So, in a world, just kidding, we're not doing that. But in a world, the mortal plane, or Earth, or like the place that people live, is surrounded by these other worlds that have their own inhabitants with their own special powers who come into our world and sometimes wreak havoc, sometimes leave behind magical powers. But everything that we think of as magic is from these otherworldly beings. All the details about the 8 worlds are often arcane and only known to, like, kind of the higher ups of magic. But fortunately, each of you will be starting not as a sort of level 1 character like a traditional campaign would have you. You will be starting as an experienced person who knows what they're doing and has 4 traits that we're going to start you out with from a sort of multiple choice quiz to start with. You will have 1 connection to the magic system. That you will either be a caster or you will be infused with something like an angelic bloodline, that one of your ancestors further up was one of these travelers from another world, and that will give you certain abilities and powers and limitations that other people might not have. Or you might be, spoilers, a werewolf that has powers from basically the lycanthropy virus was created by like a group of beings from these other worlds, and so you have these transformative powers. Other than those 2 options, all of the options for magic system connections will be you are a caster, which means you have a patron, which is a being from another world that gives you spells in exchange for certain things. Sometimes it's one favor that you already did for them and you're scot-free and you don't owe them anything else. Sometimes they will ongoing ask more and more of you to grant you more and more powers. Each world has its own inhabitants, and so has its own type of caster, which is someone who has gotten powers from a patron from that specific world. Let's see. The first option, you will be choosing a connection to the magic system and a sort of set of magic powers that you'll start with. Then you'll be choosing a non-magical skill set, a craft that you're good at, or a type of combat that you specialize in, a guild that you're a part of, that kind of thing. Because your skill sets are more than just magical, you also have a place in this world, and presumably a job, and a way to get money, and a way to succeed. Next, you'll be choosing your core goal, which is sort of your character's reason for being here in the plot. It could be something like an ideal that you're constantly striving towards, like battling injustice or fleeing from a noble birthright to choose your own path. Or it could be a temporary goal that you need to get this item. You are on a personal quest that may intersect with the plot that we have going on that everyone's going to be a part of. And last of all, you will choose a conflict, something that stops you from getting where you're going. This could be an emotional issue, like an addiction or even a mental illness. Or it could be an external conflict, like you are being hunted by assassins, for example, theoretically. So yeah, good call. That's a good place to start it. So those are the 4 things you'll be choosing: your magical skill set, your non-magical skill set, your core goal, or a major goal that you're working towards right now, and a main conflict that might keep you from getting what you want. So yeah, that said, your 3 options are each types of casters. Druids are their patrons are wild folk, who are from the Bog and Mire, one of these worlds that the inhabitants of the Bog and Mire have also been called the Seelie or the Fae. It's a sort of Scottish mythology thing. They are nature spirits who are often mischievous and maybe don't understand the drama that they're causing, but each wild folk is a type of animal person, essentially, a type of being. And there are predator druids who specialize in, unshockingly, hunting and like finding prey and dominating a situation. And there are prey druids who focus more on surviving and the things that prey animals have actually evolved to do in this world and in our world. That they evolve to be more aware of their surroundings and to flee from danger and to scavenge for food and that kind of thing. Then there are symbiote and parasite druids. I don't know if you guys remember 8th grade biology, but a parasite is something that finds an evolutionary advantage at the cost of causing an evolutionary disadvantage for another species. So like a mosquito, for example. I guess that's just food. I don't know, but the opposite of a parasite is a symbiote, or not really the opposite, but a symbiote, instead of benefiting off of something else's disadvantage, a symbiotic bond has mutual advantage. So if you pick a symbiote druid, basically what that means is that you will have mostly powers that benefit someone else and you at the same time. Great support role if you want to treat it like World of Warcraft. It's not really like World of Warcraft because it's not going to be that combat centric, or I would have actually used like a combat centric system. And the system that we're going to be using is say what you do and then roll d20, and I'll tell you how high you have to roll, and we'll see if you make it. Because as much as I love like a good crunchy system, I also love when a good crunchy system doesn't get in the way of the story or the world. So. That's any questions about that overview for starters? There are obviously 8 worlds with a bunch of details about them, and we're probably going to have to ramp up to that instead of me reading you the sort of Google Doc table that I have right now. Like, and in this world, this and this and this, but in this world, this and this and this. But suffice it to say, yeah, if you choose symbiote druid, you would be bound to a wild folk patron. Who encourages you to create symbiotic bonds and encourages cooperation and friendship and all that nice stuff. If you choose a witch, your patron will be a wraith who's sort of like an otherworldly anarchist who wants you to disrupt corrupt systems and just firebomb places that you don't like. And a frost sorcerer means that your patron would actually be a former human being who transcended and became one of the eloquent. Who are transcended sorcerers who become more native to that world than to our own, and become a little bit immortal. It's complicated in the situation of an ascended sorcerer, but so that's what you'd be able to do, and roughly who your patron would be. Do you have a preference on that? If not, we can come back to you. We can go to Sam next and give him the list of things that he might want.
No, that's fine. I'm ready to be that symbiote druid.
Right on. Level up. You are now a druid with magical cooperation powers, magical nature powers. You have a small spell list, but instead of having to read and memorize it, I will just always let you know when it's a good idea or like when there's an option to use a spell in combat. And that way we'll do that ramp up kind of tutorial thing where you'll start to understand the magic system like you're reading it in a Brandon Sanderson novel. It's no coincidence that I've put up my Bridge 4 poster and put out my 3 leather bounds to flex. This is a portable shelf that I put here for the explicit purpose of flexing that I have 3 leather-bound Cosmo... Well, 2, but Way of Kings is just absurdly large, so it's 2 separate books. Anyways, right on. I approve of this choice because I made them all and I like them, but I like Symbiote Druid. Next up is Sam. Sam, your 3 options for magical skill sets, for connections to this big magic system. You could be a mage. I mentioned earlier that the patrons of sorcerers are ascended humans who became powerful enough in that magic system. The same is true of mages gain their powers from other mages who ascended to be a part of this distant world called the Königdom, which is just an ancient word for kingdom, and even canonically in this world, no one knows how to pronounce it, and they just call it the mage world or the kingdom or what have you. Mages focus on they gain power through the collection of knowledge, either through like scholarly study and learning more about the world they gain powers, or through uncovering secrets and finding hidden knowledge. Hidden knowledge can be especially powerful for a mage. It also means they're very nosy and always up in people's business. You can get in real trouble being a mage. They also have the most defensive spells. That's what kind of falls under their skill set. So you could be a mage. Your second option is to be a werewolf, like I mentioned earlier. 3 of these worlds, a coalition of sanguine magic, which is blood mages, occult magic, which is witches, and wild magic, which is druids, created lycanthropy, or werewolves. Just like in so many literary sources, being a werewolf is as much curse as it is blessing, and it'll come with a lot of weaknesses, like the weakness to silver, for example, or in extreme cases, if you become too powerful, you won't be able to do things like cross uncrossed roads, which is something that the Fae can't do, or the wild folk, or enter a building without being invited in, kind of like a vampire, because you draw some power from that occult magic. But with those limitations come great powers, primarily shape-shifting into either man, wolf, or a sort of hybrid that's great for fighting and not great for making friends. And healing that, depending on how powerful of a werewolf you become, and you become more powerful by feeding. It's not Skyrim lycanthropy per se, but it is, eat people at the full moon kind of lycanthropy still. So depending on how powerful you become, you could get up to, I'm not going to say Wolverine healing, but I am going to say Wolverine and Logan healing. So yeah, great for combat, not great for making friends. That's the long and short of it. Or lastly, you could be a destruction warlock. Warlocks serve demons, which means the only way to get their powers is through causing like a lot of mayhem and unhappiness. But the thing about serving a demon is demons don't care who suffers, they just care that suffering happens. So a lot of people find that the most ethical way to be a warlock and to gain these powers through demons is to find people who deserve to be destroyed or deserve to have things stolen from them or that kind of thing. Because demons don't care about innocence or guilt, they just care that suffering happens. And so many warlocks are sort of vigilante types who punish the wicked and then gain powers because demons are like, I love that suffering you caused, good job. So, again, your 3 choices: mage, werewolf, and destruction warlock.
Yeah. Those are interesting. I could see all of those being fun. What do you guys think? Kind of depends on what kind of character Miles ends up doing as well, I suppose.
I know.
Yeah. I can read out Miles's options if you're opting to fill for the party.
Yeah, we can circle back.
Right on.
That would be good.
Miles.
All right, I'm ready.
Oh yes. Your 3 options. Your first option is to become an inheritor. Inheritors serve those of the sun, the inhabitants of the world Solari, which, unlike angels, the separation between them wouldn't be clear from our mythology that we're familiar with, but in reality the big difference is that those of the sun and their servants, the inheritors, carry out the work of justice, punishing the wicked, killing undead who should still be dead, getting demons back to their own realm. Just
Very
get out of here,
paladin-like.
demons. Very paladin, very crusade. In fact, if you choose inheritor, there will be a follow-up question. There are 3 ongoing solar crusades, and you have to swear yourself to one of them to gain inheritor powers. The next option is another kind of druid, a predator druid. It excels at, rather than the helping people like a symbiote druid or surviving and scavenging like a prey druid. They specialize in the hunt. It's almost impossible to hide from a predator druid because, in fact, druids gain a great level of adaptability and will often literally physically evolve traits that help them do what they need to do. What this means is that Hayden's character, a symbiote druid, has likely evolved to have perhaps a trustworthy face or very advanced social skills. People are at ease around him because druids literally physically adapt to their needs. A predator druid becomes a killing machine in and of themselves, can often smell blood or the kind of pheromones that prey release when they're afraid. Predator druids are excellent at hunting, but they're not always good at surviving. So a predator druid can get into some trouble. Last of all, rather than being a caster or someone infected with lycanthropy, there's your last option is to have Lycian blood or angel's blood. That means one of your ancestors at some point, probably in the last 4 or 5 generations, was in fact an angel, literally an inhabitant of a different plane, and you carry some traits of the angels with you. Since the Solari take care of the whole Justice, Paladin, Crusade angle, all the angels are left to just sort of be like peace and love kind of angels, kind of like good vibes only, just honest, direct, and kind is their credo. And they're generally well liked pretty much in any nation they go to, unlike so many of these other like inhabitants of the other worlds that are feared or reviled or sometimes worshipped, but more like a tyrant, like fear dragon worship kind of worship, more like a kobold kind of worship than like hey, you're a real G, you're a real bro, and I'm here for you. Angels, universally bros. So yeah, Lycian blood would you would gain powers mostly concerning healing, light, and charisma. So those are your 3 options. You could be an inheritor, kind of a crusader, paladin vibe. A predator druid excels at hunting, if maybe not at surviving. And Lycian blood, which means you're a little bit angel-like, or angelic, I guess.
Well, I think I'm definitely going to have to go with the Predator Druid. I'm here for the Glass Cannon playstyle. I think a super direct, easy to kill, easy to be killed is definitely the playstyle I'm going for today.
Right on, right on. I'm excited for it. So
Say
Sam,
Inheritor Druid, did I hear that right?
Predator.
No, I'm
Druid.
going Predator.
Predator Druid, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Cool.
So that brings us back
I'll be the
to
mage then.
Okay, sweet.
Pretty sure.
So we've got one symbiote druid, uses nature-fueled power to empower self and others. We've got one predator druid, excels at the hunt, can smell blood, maybe a little creepy, glass cannon. And further down, we've got a mage, specializes in finding truths, hidden truths, scholarly truths, and using them for defensive spells and learning more about the world. An excellent set of magic powers to start with. We move on to non-magical skill sets. We're gonna, since we started with Hayden and then Sam and then Miles, this one's gonna start Sam and then Miles and then Hayden, and the last one's gonna be Miles, Hayden, Sam. Or not the last one, there's 4. It's fine. Sam, that means you are starting us off. You have 3 options for your non-magical skill set. First of all, you could be an assassin. With this backstory, you are a member of not one, but 2 different rival assassins guilds. Neither one knows that you belong to the other, and it has to stay that way. Second, you could be a busker. Another word for busker is bard, but I'm not going to use it here because in this world, bard is a specific kind of sorcerer whose passion is some kind of music, and so they gain like music-based magic powers. But as a busker, you know the shape of stories, and you are beginning to suspect that you are in one. Or last of all, rather than picking a non-magical skill set, you could pick a second magical power and if you pick that, you can pick from any of them that any of the three of you had offered and didn't take. So those are the three options. Member of two rival assassins guild, a busker who knows the shape of stories and is beginning to suspect that he's in one, or a second magic power.
See, this is tough because I'm in another game right now where I'm a bard, and I'm.
Oh, nice.
But I just barely started, and we only do it like every other week. And I've never done that kind of character before, so I think I might. I mean, do I want to do two bards at the same time?
Double bard.
Yeah, let's specialize. I'll be the busker.
Right on. A busker who knows the shape of stories and is beginning to suspect that he is in one. Great literary option. Great way for me to just blatantly rip off Name of the Wind at every opportunity. Why not do that?
And it fits the character I'm trying to think that I think I want to go with, so I think it'll fit. Be good.
Right on. All right, perfect. That brings us to Miles. When I was writing out all these options, I had a couple of thoughts about like, oh, this sounds like something that X person did in Y video game. I would get to something and be like, this sounds like every time Hayden's ever talked about Skyrim. Or I'd get to something and think, this sounds like every time Miles talked about Skyrim. Or I'd get to something and think, Sam said that he liked a book that sounded like this. And so I may have tipped the scales. I may have put some stuff on your plates that I know that you've chosen from previous buffets. But so Miles, your three options. Option number one, you're a thief. In fact, you are a high-ranking member of a thieves guild, second in line to become guildmaster.
Okay.
Next, you could be a master blacksmith who has just finished his masterpiece, a unique weapon forged of an ancient dwarven metal. The dwarves are all gone, and very few smiths still know how to work the metal, known only as Tiefstahl.
Okay.
Or you could be a master healer, the former royal chirurgeon of House Yoren, a recently dethroned royal family. So again,
all right, I'm going blacksmith 100%. This goes in with the character Predator Druid already. This is going to be perfect.
Right on. I think that's fantastic, and I have that one has a follow-up question. What's the weapon, Miles? What is it? And again, because of the gimmick that I chose for this campaign, I'm going to give you some options, but this one,
okay,
feel free to go off script if you have a better idea for this.
Okay.
It could an axe that you called Entfeller. B, a bardiche, which is a kind of polearm that you called Heartseeker. Or C, a pair of short swords that you have yet to name. You can also, you can choose your own for this one. If you've got like a weapon that you're really vibing with, that you think would roll with your whole Predator Druid aesthetic that you're building up, you're clearly the DPS, so which weapon you choose is important to your style and your vibe. So take your time, and we can come back to you if you want, because Hayden still hasn't heard his three options. So
I'm going to think about this one for a minute. Hayden, I'll let you go ahead.
Cool.
Right on. So that brings us to the three options for Hayden. First option, and remind you are a symbiote druid. I'll keep that in mind as we're, your three options. Number one, you could be a demon hunter, a member of a secret organization known as the Hand of the North, which hunts demons throughout the kingdoms. B, a giant-blooded pit fighter. You have giant's blood in you if you choose this option. That's traveled down your father's line for generations. You stand over 7 feet tall with a build like a warhorse, and you have gained considerable fame and notoriety as a brutal pit fighter. Or C, you could be an inventor. You have recently created a weapon unlike any ever seen before. It functions like a bow, but rather than launching projectiles based on a heavy pull, it launches projectiles based on the simple pull of a mechanical trigger.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
You know what you call it?
Envik.
A crossbow. You thought I was talking about guns.
I did. You know what? Now that you mention it, 100%. You have me sold.
Yeah. Could I still call it a gun? Inventing it.
That's a great character detail. You invented crossbows and you call them guns. I'd roll with that.
Dang it! I was leaning towards the giant's blood, but I think I have to go with that now.
Right on. If you're still if it's still a coin toss, we can go back to Miles. But if you're ready to send it on gun crossbow, then we can send it.
I think we have to.
All right. The inventor of the gun, a bow on a stick. All right, Miles, that brings us back to you. What weapon has the master blacksmith finally finished after years of forging?
I'm going with the twin swords. I think that they're going to be able to like vary to the environment as I can be. They're more utility. They can change around. Change styles with it.
That's true. The two swords. That's a very versatile approach. There's the whole like front hand, underhand. You could do the cross guard, Ranger's Apprentice kind of thing.
Question: can I do like Prince Zuko where they come together as well?
I was thinking that exact thing. I love it.
That sounds like a great detail. Yes, your two swords can perform the fusion dance, and you could just clasp them into a single blade. I don't really know why you wouldn't just sheath one. Is it because it's not like it's twice as long? Is it twice as heavy? Is that? I guess that could be good.
Are they just next to each other? Are the blades actually separate or are they together?
That's a good question.
The first Google of the campaign.
What was he called? The Blue Spirit or something? I'm just gonna
Zuko, Blue Spirit.
Two swords. Two swarods. All right, let me switch to this being the main. I'm not seeing them. Oh wait, no, I think I've. Okay. Yeah, they've both got the rings around the grip, I don't think they would actually click together. So maybe he's just swinging. So yours clasp together, but they don't become a single blade? Is that what you're saying? They're like twin fangs?
Yeah, I guess so. I think that probably is what I'm going for here. I think from what I can see, that is 100% what I'm going for.
Right on. I can vibe with that. Excellent. So everyone's got their non-magical skill sets and their magical skill sets. Next, we move on to core goal. Let's get some plot up in this campaign. So Miles, we start with you for this one. Your core goal. 3 options. This one, more freeform, more narrative. I don't have like specific bespoke FTL Blue options style options for core goals as much as I do for like the magical skill set that actually have like spell lists associated with them, or the non-magical skill sets that are like very directly applicable. So if you want to go off book on this one, feel free. That said, your three options that you just start with for free. Number 1, you want to find the secret to immortality, not for yourself, but for a close friend, a woman you once considered your enemy who is now dying of a degenerative disease.
Okay.
Option number 2, you want to see power in the kingdoms given not to the few, but to the many. You want a revolution. And option number 3, you want to become the most powerful caster the world has ever seen, so that nobody can hurt you ever again.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
This one's probably a little bit weightier. So, if you want to pass it up to Hayden, we can roll it around while you think about it. We're not short on time.
And so this is the main like goal of my character, right? The end aspiration.
Yes. If it is something like directly achievable, then it doesn't have to be like the one thing they're alive for. Now my plot purpose is done. I will die now. But it's what drives your character to improve themselves and to like learn new magic things, and it's something that your character strives for and is important to them. Doesn't have to be like the one defining goal.
Can I intertwine this with other parts of the character creation already?
Definitely, yeah.
You said like most of the dwarves were dead, yeah?
Yes.
All right. I've heard whispers that there are some left, and that they're better smiths than I am. So I've come to challenge them with my swords to see who truly was like the better smith of them all. The death, of course.
Miles, when you were like, let me do some world building real quick. I've heard rumors that there are dwarves still alive. What I did not expect was that you were going to say, if so, my goal is to fight them. I love that you heard about, by the way, recent genocide, and you're like, I will find those who remain,
finish them off.
and I will hit them with my swords. You know what? It really fits in with the Predator Druid aesthetic. The idea that would be your ultimate aspiration, that's fantastic. I will allow it. It's a deal. You are trying to find the last dwarven the last dwarven survivors and hit them. That brings us up to Hayden. Your 3 goals, or to choose from, and again, you are free to go off script with this one because it's a little bit looser and more narratively focused. Number 1, you wish to fight injustice, particularly the ongoing, in some kingdoms, ongoing problem of slavery throughout the kingdoms of the continent. Number 2, you have been training in magic and combat to reunite with the love of your life, who was a powerful caster but was targeted by a demon and left you so that you wouldn't be hurt as like collateral damage. Or 3, you don't have a grand quest or a big problem to fix. You just want to hear the best music, taste the best food, and experiences the far reaches of what the world has to offer. You don't have like a tremendous earth-shattering goal. You just have a constant sense of wonder and wanderlust, and you want to go to new places and experience new things. That's what you're all about.
That sounds like a symbiote druid to me. I think that's what I'm going to pick.
I like it. Yeah, that's sweet.
Very wholesome.
Yeah. and I feel like the stereotypical D&D character comes in with a backstory loaded in the chamber, that they're like, my entire family was burned to the ground by X race that's 3 feet tall, and now I'm out to kill them all everywhere I go. Let's get into this. And it's like 6 people with like variations on a theme. It's like form filled out like Mad Lib violent backstories that they're all out for like retribution and like hunting entire races of people, and that's great to have.
Don't call me out here. Whoa.
You're not hunting them, you just want to duel them. I guess you're kind of hunting them. You're a predator druid. It's a thing. So last of all, that brings us to Sam. Your 3 preloaded options for your character's core goal, what you're here to do. Number 1, you are running from a noble birthright, and you want nothing more than to choose your own path in life. Number 2, you want to ease people's suffering and cause more good than harm, and that's it. And number 3, you want to find the people responsible for the death of your grandfather, who was himself a powerful caster and was killed before his time. Any preference between those?
Yeah, I like the running from a noble birthright one. That sounds good.
Right on. Sweet. And that brings us to the last section. It's going to start with Hayden again. This last section is, rather than being an ability that you have or a goal that you're working towards, rather than being the sort of positive attributes that drive your character forward and allow them to accomplish things, what we're picking next is a conflict, either internal or external, that stops you from doing what you want, or stops you from being safe, or is in another way a limiting factor on you. Hayden, your beginning options, and you could go off script on this, but not if it's like my biggest weakness. Oh, I try too hard. Like I'm like too good at everything, and people like kind of don't like me for it. Except I'm also really good at like speech. I got that to 100. So like, it's not. but if you have an idea for like a weakness that's actually really plot relevant and like balancy, then that's fine. We can roll with that. But Hayden's 3 options to begin with. Number 1, a witch has prophesied that you will die in a fire, and soon. Number 2, your patron, who has granted you like the abilities of a symbiote druid, is upset with you and may revoke your powers at any moment. You're not sure how to get back in her good graces. Number 3, you gained your success overnight, and you feel out of place and unqualified, to the point that you have developed severe imposter syndrome. So again, those 3 options are: witch has prophesied that you will die in a fire, your patron is upset with you, you might lose your magic powers, or you've developed imposter syndrome because you're suffering from success. You got successful overnight, happened too fast, and now you don't feel like you belong here. Preference between those 3?
I think I want to go with the witch prophecy.
You know,
Yeah.
I have heard that death by fire is the purest death.
I'm surprised you didn't go with the more money, more problems. Oh, my wallet's too
Yeah, that's a
heavy.
good point, because I am but I feel like somebody whose like only goal is to just chill, like is a little too chill to be like worried about. Like, he's probably confident in his gun invention that he's got going on. So
Whereas the night is dark and full of terrors.
yeah, that's terrifying.
Look, if I point it out every time I say something that's like distantly adjacent to something that happened in another fantasy book, then no one else can accuse me of being derivative. I've already made fun of myself for it.
There you go.
That's the goal. All right. That brings us around to Sam. Sam, your 3 options for internal or external conflict that might stop your character from doing what they want. Number 1, you are being hunted by an assassin's guild. Let's see. What did you pick for? You picked busker, not assassin. There's a special option that if you had picked assassin, you could have been hunted by one of the assassin's guilds that you belong to, is hunting the identity that you used for the other assassin's guild. But that's besides the point.
That's
Yeah.
pretty tight, actually.
Yeah, being hunted by an assassin's guild, option 1. Number 2, you struggle with addictions to alcohol and compulsive gambling. Or number 3, you lost a limb in a tragic accident. Dealer's choice. You can choose which limb, if you choose that.
Oh, I think the alcoholism and gambling fits my noble birthright pretty well.
Ooh.
Ace.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. I mean, not alcoholism and gambling addiction. That's not very cool, but... Anyways, moving on to Miles.
Good transition.
Miles, your 3 options of a conflict, something that might keep your character from doing what they want to all the time. Number 1, you lost someone important to you and you haven't had the time to mourn. It's beginning to affect the way you see the world. Option number 2, you are infamous and in some places even hated for a mistake you made a long time ago and have no way to fix. Or number 3, you've been diagnosed with a degenerative disease known only as the skulking end. It has a 100% mortality rate. You don't know when, but this is what you will die to, unless you die in combat because you're a predator druid. Yeah, so those are the 3 options. Lost someone important, haven't had the time to mourn. You are infamous for a mistake you made a long time ago, or you've been diagnosed with a degenerative illness.
Okay, I got 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
First, this illness, is it like a slow, creeping, painful death over time? Or is it like one day I'm standing and the next day I'm under the ground?
It is slow and over time. Yes.
Okay. That then, 100%.
All right. Right on. So let's take it one character at a time. Sam, you want to give us a recap of your character with their 4 selected attributes?
Okay, yeah. So I'm a mage. I'll have to review some of like what that actually means as we go forward. But I'm a mage who is also a busker, and I'm fleeing a noble birthright, and I struggle with alcoholism and gambling addiction. So I'm gonna say like this kind of fits together as like I didn't really want to be a noble, but like I'm also kind of like the spoiled noble who doesn't want to be a noble because like of course like everyone else would want to be a noble. So I was like obviously gambling, alcoholism because I'm bored all the time because I think it's boring, and I think that's the worst thing in the world, but just because like I'm obviously very privileged as a noble, so I think boredom is the worst thing that you can have happen to you. So I like, but I'm also like have a hard time focusing on one thing, which is why I started learning magic, but I also like play music and stuff and like just kind of jump from one thing to the next.
Right on. Very cool. Do you have a name? I guess according to the rules of the campaign, I have to give you several options, and then you can choose them or make your own.
Yeah.
So I can make some
Sounds
up.
good.
I'm gonna have to try very hard to not accidentally say, just Game of Thrones names, because I just tried slapping random syllables together in my mind just now. I was assembling some name sandwiches from just layers, and I swear the first 2 I came up with were Oberyn and Tommen. There's just no way around it. Everything is Westeros. I'm really drawing a blank here, and I refuse to type fantasy name generator into my Google search bar right now.
Especially since like your screen's being shared, so like, everybody would see you.
Hey man, I've got 3 monitors. I've got the whole Cerebro setup right here. And it's completely occupied with stuff I need to run a game and stream at the same time. I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna hear all the character recaps first. Miles.
All right, I am a predator druid who has a lifelong blacksmith. I've created a couple of twin swords that were dwarven made, my masterpiece. My goal for this campaign and for my life, I suppose, is to find and challenge the best dwarven smiths, the last of the dwarves, and see if I am both physically superior and have made better items or weapons, I suppose. I am dying of a horrible illness. I believe you said it was called Skulking Death.
The Skulking End.
Skulking End. There we go. I do have a name. I'm gonna pitch it to you. You can give me the slapdown veto if you want. My name's Keith. You can call me Keith. I can I have like nickname?
Keith the Deadly.
No,
what's your
call
nickname?
Me Keith Dwarven Forged.
Dwarven Forged. All right, Miles. It's important that you know this. You can have this name, but you gave it to yourself, and everyone will react in character how they would react to you naming yourself after a recently genocided group.
And somebody's actively trying to like finish the job.
Yeah. That's
Right,
fully. I can't even say a real world equivalent because I would be killed. Twitter would find me, Miles. No. Yeah, Keith Dwarven Forged. People are going to react how they react, I guess. Predator Druid doesn't have to be popular. Right on. And Hayden, what's the overview for your character?
It all just came together in a terrible storm. I am I wouldn't say peace-loving, but I'm a very, like...
Good vibes?
Kind of just, like, good vibes, symbiote druid. And my goal in life is to kind of... Well, first of all, I'm a great inventor. I like created this amazing contraption that is a what do you call it? A bow on a stick?
A bow on a stick.
I call it gun for short. And I think my goal in life is to just like seek fulfillment, you know, in the little things. And the current way that is manifesting is I'm running PR for this guy who named himself Dwarven Forge.
Okay,
To try and smooth it out.
stop. You read my session notes. Because there is a small caveat in there that says if they pick Symbiote Druid and Predator Druid, they are working together as part of their backstory.
Yes.
That is
Yep.
fully wild that you just dropped that. I mean, maybe not that wild
you
because
go.
they're both Druids and it's like one of you is literally named after a relationship between two animals from an evolutionary standpoint. So maybe it's not that out there that we came to the same conclusion on that, but that's fantastic. Wait that.
Yep.
All right. Keith.
Oh, and I'm supposed to die in a fire because a witch told me to. So,
So hang out with the
but
blacks.
you know, an interesting thing about that, I fear nothing but fire. I am fearless in combat because I know it won't be that.
That's fantastic, and also a little bit canonical for the wild folk, who one of them is your patron. Fire doesn't exist in the Boggenmire, which is their world. But I don't want to go too lore dump on you. Very cool, very well integrated backstory. Do you have a name? I have the names now. I've written letters until they formed words that sound like the cultures that I've vaguely outlined for this world. Your three options for names, Hayden: Alberth, Denry, and Omerat.
Ooh. I think I like Alberth.
Alberth and Keith. The dream team.
Yeah.
Right on. And coming back to...
I have a name if that helps.
Sure. I actually have some traditional names from the kingdom that you are from. But if you have one, fantastic. Let's hear it.
I was gonna go Marigold Savin, but let's hear what you have too.
Savin. The two names popular with the nobility in the kingdom that you are from are Shalach and McArlen.
So is Marigold the name that you took as your, like, I'm running away name?
I'm gonna say my character doesn't like that name, but he's kind
you're
of stuck
running
with
from
it.
Oh.
But also, I like the idea of a musician named after
Oh.
Flower.
Oh, okay. And I'm sorry, say it one more time. What was it and how do I spell it? I could spell it out later. Just what was the name?
Marigold Savin.
Marigold.
But I don't know. I just like threw two together. So if like I probably should pick the surname that matches the noble titles of the land or whatever.
That makes sense. How about Marigold McArlen? You could still go by Savin as your traveling name if that's.
How do you spell McArlen? Is that like
that is MAC.
capital A and I think?
Yeah, capital MAC, capital ARLEN.
Arlen. Cool.
Sweet. And so our three heroes: Keith Dwarven Forge, Alberth, and Marigold McArlen / Marigold Savin find themselves in a curious fiefdom at the edge of the kingdom of Telmeri. The fiefdom is known as the Red Reach. It being a border fiefdom means that the person in charge of it is not a duke, but is rather a marquis. That's actually the term for a duke whose territory borders another nation. It's considered a slight like half step up from Duke because it's a very trusted position to be trusted with the border with another kingdom that may erupt into war. It's been years since there was tension between Telmeri and Viton, these two neighboring kingdoms. And so there's very little threat of that breaking out. But the local culture has sort of kept these vestiges of an old sort of militarocracy that used to be present in the region. It's very traditional for the citizens of the Red Reach to carry around weapons, usually multiple weapons, but very often the citizenry haven't used these weapons at all. I've never been forced to. It's just a status symbol, just as swords have been in many nations in many locations in our world. But I'm going to stop dropping random history facts on you. So it is in cobblestone streets full of just nobility and peasantry alike, carrying these often gaudy ornamental weapons that our first point of view character, Marigold McArlen, finds himself. He follows the flow of traffic, or foot traffic rather, and is sort of wound his way towards a nearby city square where a crier is ringing a large brass handbell, trying to get people's attention. It's a busy trade hub, this city, and people are largely not paying attention to the crier, but he seems insistent and has continued ringing his bell as if waiting for people to stop everything that they're doing and turn towards him, which just isn't happening. And so he just keeps ringing until eventually a small group of, like, pitying citizenry gather around him, like, yeah, no, sure, do the thing, like, do it before people leave the square, like, it's, you could just say it. And he eventually, kind of crestfallen, shouts his announcement. It's interesting news, and maybe bad news for the casters of the kingdom. The royal archmage, Duke Visica, has died. Duke Visica is one of the main reasons that casters are no longer persecuted legally in this kingdom. It's sort of unreasonable to persecute magic users in many situations. Druids are largely just representations of nature, and a predator druid can be, like, threatening, but they don't typically just go around killing innocent people. And prey druids, symbiote druids, even often parasite druids, they tend to be very, either they live in the woods and they're not really bothering anyone, or they're pretty easy to get along with. People like the inheritors who serve those of the sun, it's unlikely that you'll be on their bad side unless you've done something to get on their bad side. Something like necromancy, usually, or maybe just being a demon. They usually kill people for the right reasons, but there are certain exceptions to these rules, mainly warlocks and blood mages, that make it so that people, especially people who don't know really the differences between these types of casters, really freak out. And so it is, in fact, a rarity in the kingdoms to have a royal archmage at all. And so the fact that Duke Visica has died is probably bad news for the political safety of casters throughout the kingdom. It's at this unsettling news that Marigold McArlen first stops in this city square, but the crier goes on with more news, and it just gets worse. You see, the death of any caster is often a significant event, and especially an archmage as powerful as Duke Visica. His death was marked by a deathbed prophecy. While most people's last words are rarely of any significance at all, the last words of a caster, and a very powerful caster at that, are almost always either uniquely true, like axiomatically true, or they are dangerous prophecies. And the Duke Visica's last words were indeed prophetical. He predicted that the queen would die within the year to assassins, and that a new ruler would take her place, a powerful caster, beloved of the people, who would lead a bloody revolution to claim the throne. It is unclear who this might be, but the death of the Duke, especially if it's followed by a violent uprising, can only mean bad things for casters. Looking around, there are many people reacting to this news, and in fact, at these far reaches of the kingdom, most people seem pretty passive about it. It's bad news when royalty dies, and it's kind of unsettling news that there might be a revolution, but in reality, this far from the seat of power, it's not going to affect day-to-day life very much. These people have already seen the process of power coming and going. They've seen upheavals and overturnings of royalty. Even as recently as last year, the royalty of nearby Vaton, the nation that this fiefdom is bordering, it didn't really disrupt day-to-day life. There are a couple people who look very concerned, and there is one face in the crowd that Marigold notices that curiously only seems annoyed. She has a stern expression. She's a shorter woman, maybe just 5'2", but built like a fighter, clearly muscular, and wearing very simple weaponry at her side and in sheaths and holsters. That doesn't seem like it's worn to fit in with the local culture. It seems like it's worn in case she has to kill someone. She looks annoyed at the crier, and in fact, once he finishes his announcements, which drone on after that about trade prices, because this is a market city, eventually he steps down from his sort of pedestal on one of the stone benches in this large flagstone courtyard, and she walks over to him, grabs him by the arm, and says something in hushed tones. She seems upset. Eventually the crier, shakes her off of him and walks away looking equally upset now. But finally this woman stands up on that stone bench, not to make an announcement, but just apparently to get a better view of the bustling crowd. She pulls a small piece of paper off out of her pocket and then seems to be reading something, looking at something, and then scanning the crowd. Reading, and then scanning, and reading, and her eyes finally shift over and then double take and look right at Marigold. Seeing that you are looking back at her, she points to you and steps down from the bench and starts walking towards you with determined purpose. This is concerning to you for a number of reasons. The primary reason is that you are essentially escaped nobility who ran away from the burdensome responsibility of assuming your father's position. What do you do? And I have to give you options. That's the whole idea. Do you?
I'm just gonna lazily wave.
Right on. She's furrows her brow at you, and she walks up and says, "Look." She kind of gets in close, very conspiratorial, kind of looking around, untrusting at the crowd. And she says, "Are you Marigold? Are you who I'm looking for?" She's looking up to have to say it. She's very short.
Who's that?
She kind of narrows her eyes and says, "I'm looking for casters. I need some protection from other casters. It's a whole thing. You're not Marigold, to be clear?"
No, I don't think so. That sounds like a woman's name.
Yeah, it kind of does. Well, on the off chance that you're a caster, I'm trying to gather some for a meeting. I need to protect some valuable goods on a caravan. I'd be willing to pay well. And she starts to step away, and then she kind of narrows her eyes. She looks back. She says, on the off chance that you're lying to me. I don't mean to. I have a dossier. I didn't make it. I was given it. A dossier on a caster that might be found nearby. If you happen to be him, I get why you don't want me to know who you are. I'm not here from Marigold's father. I don't know I don't know anyone from Venel, let alone anyone from House McArlen. But I need someone to protect this caravan, and it would be in Marigold's best interests. And let me look at why.
I don't mean to presume, but it seems like Marigold would be just fine staying out of this.
Is he?
Not that I...
She says, and looks at you. She thinks about it for a second and says, I have a solution to Marigold's problem. There are political favors that could be traded that could declare him, if he wanted this to happen, I would have the power to have him declared a bastard. And that sounds bad if you're not Marigold. I've just got to put the cards on the table because I don't have time, all right? I don't have time for this. If Marigold was declared a bastard, then he would no longer have any reason to have to flee from his homeland. He would be able to take all the money that he scarpered with, keep it, and leave. No longer required to follow his father's traditional. I don't know. We do nobility very differently here. I don't get why the firstborn son has to be it, or the firstborn daughter of the woman. Why it has to go to the same gender, or why the order of birth. It's again. I don't have time for this. But if that was a political favor that you or Marigold wanted, then he should see me at that tavern later tonight. And she points to a nearby sign that says the Red Mollusk.
You seem like you're quite a rush, so I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you got it. And on the off chance that you're a caster, but you're not Marigold, and you're keeping up this weird charade, talking about how you're not... I can find something that you need, okay? You don't understand how powerful I am or how badly I need your help. Have a nice day. And she just storms off, pulling a different sheet of paper out of her pocket and just once again scanning the crowd. And yep.
Yeah, this is tricky. I don't quite know who my character is yet. So. Okay, cool.
But yeah, after that curious encounter, Marigold goes about his business, and we change scenes a little bit to a forest, not that far outside of the city, close enough to be there in under an hour, but far enough that it's an area that wildlife still roam freely. They're not afraid of humans. They don't know to stay away from certain areas, nor do they know to stay away from something mostly human, but maybe not all the way. An unstoppable duo. A pair of predators hunting in pairs, hunting as their own sort of pack stalks through the trees. Because of the symbiotic link created by Alberth, he and Keith essentially share muscle memory. They share skill during this short time that they are bonded. And so they both stalk with preternatural grace and a preternatural sense for where prey are, where there is food nearby, through the trees. You've been hunting something for some time, and it has taken you far out from the city, through the Red Reach, and into this particular forest where you follow a trail of footprints that that the average hunter would not know how to identify. They're the footprints of a cloven hoof pressed into the ground deeper than you would expect the pattern to be, because the pattern is that of a stag, a larger male deer. It's the simple cloven hoof, but it goes 4 or 5 times as deep as a stag's hoofprint should, into the muddy earth that you now stalk, stepping on light foliage and occasionally holding onto a tree or a more stable piece of like bush or standing plant, so as not to leave so many footprints yourselves. The two of you travel nigh silently through the underbrush, until eventually you come over a small escarpment into, or to look down on a wide field, only sparsely populated with foliage that would help you sneak up, on the opposite side of which is a gently babbling brook with a number of animals drinking from it. But most of the animals begin to flee as your prey, your quarry, steps up to the river. It is indeed a stag, a large male deer with huge antlers, but the antlers don't seem to stop at its head. In fact, an almost chitinous plate rolls back along its body. This is an armored stag, one of very few that are left. While there are efforts throughout the kingdoms to preserve wildlife like this, that there are only few examples of them left, the two of you know better. The two of you know what the earth wants. Nature has its own selection process. And if this species has begun to die out, Earth has a reason for it. And if this armored stag hasn't managed to escape you over your 3-day hunt, it deserves what's about to happen. You guys stalk up behind your quarry. What is your plan here, the two of you? You have several options. The first is to try and outpace the stag. This can be difficult because a stag is nimble. It can the sort of prancing motion that a deer does when it's frightened is in fact a carefully calculated ballet, pirouetting through the forest and landing exactly where it needs to. It is difficult to catch something that moves like that. Deceptively difficult, in fact. And though you've had several close encounters with this thing, you haven't managed to wound it. So it's not likely you'll be able to close in on it quickly. Your second option is to sneak around the clearing, to get to the tree line on the opposite side of the brook that is much, much closer to this thing. You run the risk of it leaving before you get to it, but you also, this would be the quietest approach. Your last option is to split off to either side and perform a pincer attack. Whichever one of you it notices first, as long as it doesn't notice both of you, it will flee towards the one that it has not seen. So, direct approach, both sneak around, pincer attack. Or come up with your own thing. What do you do? Oh, I'm sorry, actually, I'm going to start tutorializing some of your spell list now. Because there is another unique option. You both have animal empathy, which means not only do you have a supernatural sense of what an animal wants and is about to do, you can in fact speak to certain animals who you have something in common with. Hayden, you can speak, or Alberth can speak to peaceful animals and social animals best. And Keith Dwarvenforge really takes me out of the hunt. Really just pries me out of that scene. Keith, it's spelled with an A. I just saw that you changed your Discord name to Keith Keath. Wild, man. What? You're better at speaking to predators. So if there's a predator nearby, you could probably find like a raptor and talk it into scaring the thing towards you, or anything that you guys think you can convince an animal to do. You can make this a charisma check instead of a dexterity check is how I'm going to phrase that. But what's your guys' approach?
Can we talk to do we talk to animals like just with speak, like it's an extra language, or is it like a telepathy thing?
You do have to speak to them, and you're not actually speaking a different language. They are just here. They just understand when you speak in a language that's like an actual language. So you would be speaking in common. They would just understand it, and they would still be chittering or chirping or barking back, but you would just understand it.
Okay. All right, Alberth, what do you think? Are we thinking sneaking up, pincer? What are you feeling?
I'm thinking what you're thinking.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hey.
But no, I was thinking pincer.
I was actually also thinking pincer. You weren't lying.
See?
The
Okay.
the symbiotic
So
link is
who's
working.
taking on... I guess I should take the front. Is it like going to right and left side or front and back?
Yeah, what's the layout like?
You'd be coming towards it from either side of the brook, so it would be left and right.
Cool.
Okay. I guess I'll take the right side.
Right on.
Okay.
Time for our actual first die roll, finally. Each of you roll a d20. You're both very good at stealth, but this thing is also very good at not being snuck up on. So I'm going to say if you roll an 8 or higher, you manage to sneak up on it. If you roll a 7 or lower, you don't. If one of you fails but the other one makes it, you're still good. But if you both fail, it's going to be another day of hunting this thing.
All right, I
Before we
rolled.
roll, can we just appreciate that you rolled 4d20 and got 69?
Thank you. I was just seeing if the setting was still on visual dice, and I just clicked for... That's also just an insane roll to have 16,
It is.
16,
It's
17,
really good.
20. Wild. And then I left it up because it was 69 instead of clearing the chat log.
So can I just
Naturally.
roll?
Yeah, so if you got this
Hey.
brought up, go over here to the dice, and if you click on a d20, yeah, nope. Keith Dwarvenforge
It didn't go
has
well. It didn't go
startled
well.
a 4 and a 1. I absorbed all the good
Okay,
rolls. The
I know we did a
69
lot of
is
work,
correct.
like setting up this whole thing. I think we need to start from scratch next week. New campaign.
Just it's exactly it's like when I fail speech early on like an RPG. It's like I'm just creating a new Skyrim character. Yeah.
Okay.
So shockingly, you both seem to startle it, and it darts back towards where you guys came from. There's a slim chance that you might still be able to catch up to it, but if one of you fails this one, and the other one succeeds, you will increase the distance too much, that the symbiotic link will break, and mostly Keith will be fine, but Alberth will still be Alberth, and no longer have absorbed Keith's unnatural grace and stealth.
All right, I guess I try to jump after it, see if I can pin it down or something.
Right on. Roll me another d20. It's fast and it's nimble, but you're also fast.
It rolled 2 of them.
I think you added exclamation point, and it thinks you're rolling advantage if you hit exclamation point. I don't know, but either way, I'll just take the first one, and it's a 20, which is great because you needed a 19 or a 20 to catch up with this one. Yeah, seeing the armored stag dart away, Keith darts after it himself, leaps in the air, and how do you take this thing down? Are you like tackling it, and then you're gonna snap its neck, like Predator style, or are you drawing your twin swords?
Yeah, definitely a combination. Twin swords into the neck for the extra leverage to twist.
Right on. Kind of like you're climbing it like Shadow of the Colossus, but it's a little small
Yeah.
for that. Right on. What have you named your swords, by the way? Did we did you have you named
no,
them? Or
no.
You haven't named them yet.
So you said they were unnamed, and I took that literally. They're unnamed so far. I
Right
know
on.
they have names. I don't know what they are.
Oh. Fantastic. All right. Yeah. Keith dives out, plunges the 2 short swords into in between two of the chitinous armor plates, and you bring this thing down like a deer-shaped tank. It slams to the ground and like digs a big divot as it slides across the wet earth, and then it slumps to the right, and you fall off of it. Manage to pull your swords out. One more hunt accomplished, and you feel your link to your patron strengthen as you prove once again, for maybe the 100th time, your prowess in hunting, especially hunting something so rare and so well protected. One more success. Unfortunately, you put too much distance between yourself and Alberth, and so as you get up, you realize that the symbiotic link has broken. While Alberth benefited more from that when it comes to hunting, you realize that your sense of like empathy and in fact kind of an emotional intelligence that Keith maybe doesn't know how to like quantify what he's feeling the lack of falls away, and you forget why you're a little bit why you're traveling with Alberth and why it was important that you were bonded, because you fall back into the lone wolf kind of predator mentality. Consciously that it's still advantageous for you to be together, and you're still friends, but you fall back into that lone hunter mentality. You guys meet back up. It'll be a while before you can reestablish your symbiotic link. But it is not Keith who hears the footsteps in the bushes first. Keith being a predator and better at killing than surviving. Alberth, more naturally cautious by nature of his bond with his patron, hears footsteps on the outside of the clearing. Someone is approaching you, or maybe just watching you.
Is Keith making noise coming back?
Very little, no. You guys are in a clearing, so you're pretty visible, but the wildlife wouldn't hear you sneaking up on them right now, yeah.
Is there anything worth taking off of the stag?
Its chitin might be useful. As a smith, you are accustomed to working with materials like this, not really for like the substance of a weapon, but for like the handle of a weapon. This would make an excellent sort of like bone handle. And the antlers are actually made of a different material than normal deer antlers, so they might be, and they're certainly rarer. So you might be able to fetch a good price for them if you saw them off right now.
And do we eat like meat? Are we like hunters in the sense like we should scavenge this meat to eat later?
You eat normal human food, largely. Alberth eats primarily normal human food. You have adapted a slightly greater ability to digest raw meat that humans don't really have, but many wild animals do. You're better at that, but you'd still rather cook it. That said, the meat from inside of a shelled creature, just because of the evolutionary realities involved, doesn't have to be as tough as like mammal meat does. So the inside of this is less like tough, gamey venison and more like tender, juicy
lobster.
Crab. Yeah. This is I want to take this moment to make fun of how similar it is to Stormlight Archives biology, again, so that no one can criticize me for it later. But yeah, you just took down an enormous crab. This meat is excellent meat and will likely sell pretty well.
Ooh, guess we take what we can.
Right on. You look up and you notice that Alberth is eyeing the tree line. Sort of hackles raised. I mean, you don't literally have hackles. I feel the need to specify because druids do have like some weird anatomy sometimes, but no, he just looks on edge.
Are we like kind of furries? Is that what's happening?
I don't think you know what a furry is. Wait, I don't think No, Miles. You are evolving. You're more like Zerg from StarCraft than you are like furries.
All right,
you're evolving
on
a cellular level, and it makes sense because plot. No, in this
yeah,
case
so
it
you
makes
said, like,
sense because you have adaptive magics from the wild folk. But yeah, go ahead.
So me and him both have like we evolve traits specifically to like our needs. Does that have like a time frame? Like, does it take like 10 years, a week, or as we need them, we can switch out like once a day kind of thing?
It is more a factor of months and years than it is days or weeks. So it does take a while, and the reason you've developed these traits is because you've been hunting for a long time.
Okay. They're not furries. They're not.
Yep. Worth specifying.
So it takes me a few months and years to become a furry, is what I'm saying.
A lot of dedication.
Do you
involved.
mean like a person who's actually part animal when you say furry? At no point do
No,
you
it's like a
evolve the
dress-up
desire
thing.
to put on a fursuit. If that's what you're asking me, that's a very biological essentialist approach to furriness. I'm not qualified to talk about this, Miles. I'm not qualified to talk about this. No.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. So we got somebody probably watching us from the brush.
Yes.
Do we have any options for this?
You. I mean, you could flee or approach them or shout, "Hey, listen." Do you do any of those, or do you wait for them to act first? Because that's also an option.
I'm trying to find Albert's voice, because he spoke pretty normally when he was symbiotically linked to Keith.
Oh.
But I have a feeling that Albert's like own voice probably sounds more like, "Hey, you out there." No, that's Tenvik's voice. I can't do that. But he probably just says, "Hi, hello."
Sounds like Stephen Colbert playing Eric Trump. That's what that sounds like.
Yeah, someone that looks nothing like Stephen Colbert playing Eric Trump stumbles, in fact, out of the foliage. It's a shorter woman, maybe 5'2", and she has like a rapier on one side, well, like in a sheath, and then like a dagger on the other side, but doesn't have either of them drawn, and seems to be moving through the foliage with some trouble. You realize, in fact, Albert, that you probably would have noticed her earlier if you hadn't been symbiotically linked, because you were zoned in on just the hunt. But now that you're back to being a little more like aware of your surroundings, and maybe a little bit more in survival mode than kill mode, that she wasn't moving that stealthily. She just wasn't that close to you yet. Yeah, she stumbles out and like is shaking stuff off. She says, "Hey, hi." She's like getting like pine needles and stuff out of her cloak and like shaking it loose. She doesn't seem all that concerned to see to see Albert at least, but she does glance over at Keith, who just naturally moves with an almost creepy litheness. That means she just didn't see him stalking through. He does that shoulder thing like a lion or like a tiger when it's sneaking up on something. And she looks over and sees Keith Dwarven Forged truly stalking through the forest, and she does like a double take, and she's like, hey, no, I'm... Hi, I should introduce myself. Let me look up the name to make sure I get it right instead of just making up one, because I'm not great at making up names, as we've established. She says, "Hi, I'm Kama, or Lady Kama. Don't call me Lady Kama. I'm looking for casters. Are you guys druids?" It seems like a dumb question, but it also seems kind of rude to assume. Are you? And she kind of points at Keith. She's like, "You're a druid, right?"
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, are you the one I'm looking for? Show me those swords you have had resheathed your swords. She's like, "Are you the guy who's hunting dwarves?"
Okay, you see that right there? I'm gonna stop there.
PR. Spin this.
Yeah.
I'm
Contrary to
already
popular
walking up,
belief,
holding out my hand, ready to shake hands.
Yep, that's me. But yeah, what was Alberth saying?
when he sees that like she was expecting this, he kind of gives it up like it's a lost cause.
Yeah.
Word has already spread a little too far at this point.
Yeah, she. Yeah, you and Miles, you said that Keith is like walking up, ready to shake her hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, she goes, "Oh, sweet." Yeah, she shakes her hand. She's like, "I'm glad it is you, because if I just like walked up to a random person who was carrying swords and I was like, 'Are you the guy who's hunting dwarves?' I don't know. Seems like the kind of place I'd get stabbed, and I didn't really bring anyone." Yeah, I'm Kama. I'm Kama. I'm trying to find some casters, and I was told to find you specifically, Keith. Yeah, I've got like these sort of dossier. It's a whole thing, and I can explain it better back at a tavern. Unless you're just more comfortable here, we can do it here. Truth be told, you're the first druid I've met. Yeah, but I'm looking for casters. I need to establish some protection for a caravan that I'm leading, because we're being hunted, and there might be like a demon involved. There's definitely a warlock involved, possibly more than one. I'm doing a bad pitch right now, aren't I? I'm doing a bad pitch. I was given dossiers on every important caster in the region, and I was told to find you specifically. Also, who's your friend?
I'm gonna get I'm gonna frown at her a little bit, be like, yeah, I'm definitely going to need quite a bit more information than that, obviously. I suppose, yeah, we can go to an inn, and I guess I start like walking off, and she asks, "Who's my friend?" I go, "Oh, yeah, Albert, by the way," and I kind of like get into the mindset of having I'm not just alone hunting anymore.
Yep.
So you don't. So what you're saying is you don't have a dossier about me? It's okay.
No, we just have them
okay.
on casters, not really like their traveling companions.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the laughing is out of character.
That's all right. That's okay. You never heard about? Never mind. It's probably for the best.
I mean, you're welcome too. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm with Keith, but yeah.
Albert's obviously with me. Albert's a key part of this team. I'm as much with Keith I'm as much with Albert as Albert's with me.
She says, "All right, yeah, I get it. We've all traveling companions are important. Heck, that's why I'm grabbing you here." Yeah. Have you guys heard about this this business with the king? The queen, and the archduke, and you guys probably haven't heard what she's talking about.
Yeah, considering we've been hunting for the last however many days.
Yeah. She says, "No, it's fine. Just come. There's a tavern called the Red Mollusk. If you guys meet me there later tonight, probably 7 or 8. I'm getting a group of people together, interviewing them. I can pay really well, and I don't mean to like dangle the big. I do feel like maybe I haven't given you enough to go on for you to want to come there, but that's an armored stag, right? That thing you just took down? It is.
Yep.
She says, "Yeah, you'll probably get a sweet reward for that. I can give you 100 times as much if you accompany me to just as far as the capital." And she points to a point in the distance that's very recognizable, because if you look out towards there, The area that you guys are at in the Red Reach, you're kind of on like a sloping hill leading up towards the city. But way out in the distance, the horizon is marked by one unmistakable element of the landscape. A
Lucky
huge
38.
mountain.
Just kidding.
What? Oh, it's Fallout New Vegas. I just started replaying that. That's great. Is that what that big cross is? I'll talk about it later. There's there's one enormous mountain. The horizon is like a flat line until it gets right there, and then it just rises up. It is known. It's hugely famous, not just for being maybe the tallest mountain in the known world, in the middle of like just plains that it's not in a mountainous region, but it's also the seat of power in this entire kingdom, the kingdom of Telmeri. It is known as Mount Deity, named after the fact that people who lived in this valley long ago, specifically, I'm going to switch to Miles' camp for this, the dwarves. The dwarves worshipped the mountain as a god, because it's not only like a huge landmark, it is also like the richest, or like the richest area in all 6 kingdoms for valuable ores, not just like gold and silver, kind of like cool or like arbitrary value metals. It's rich in iron and copper and tin and all the industrial metals that you could be looking for, and it's where the dwarven seat of power was for a long time, until recently. She points to Mount Deity in the distance. It would be probably 3 weeks travel from here, at caravan speeds, which, are slower than like full horseback speeds, but faster than walking. It would be a little while, but the amount that she just offered is a huge amount for that 3 week span. And
So-
it seems she's not done pitching. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I did want to say that, like to this girl, that I hardly think it's wise. Like I'd be surprised anybody would be so foolish as to flaunt like such privilege, unaccompanied by protection here. Like coming for protection, and you're flaunting. I could pay you 100 times what that's worth.
She looks you down and looks you back up, and something changes in like her stare. There's a sense that Keith and Alberth have, that people really have, but to a much lesser extent. Are you familiar with the difference between terror and horror? This is going to seem like a tangent for a second, but horror is something that's scary because we know it's dangerous to us. So like a bear that's roaring at you, that's horror. Someone with a cleaver that's gonna kill you and all of your teen friends at a cabin in the woods, that's horror. But terror is something different. It's not knowing whether you are in danger. It's when someone like has a smile that's really off-putting, and it's unclear if they're like genuinely smiling at you or if they're like a real psychopath who's covering for it. You know that kind of smile? It's like just like someone who makes eye contact for too long and it seems like they want something and aren't going to tell you what it is. That's terror. Standing at the edge of a cliff and closing your eyes, that's terror. This difference between terror and horror is a big deal to us evolutionarily, because there are things that we can identify as threats and there are things that we haven't yet identified, and it's sometimes scarier when we haven't identified. But druids have a particular sense for the dichotomies that they represent. They have a sense for whether someone's relationship with them is symbiotic or parasitic, or commensalist, which is a whole different thing, but we don't need to go into 8th grade biology again. and more importantly to this conversation, druids have a sense of who is a predator and who is prey. And this woman just shifted, and you're not sure how. But as soon as you say this actually good point that you're like, why are you in the woods flaunting wealth at me? She shifts her stance, and her hand doesn't go to the rapier or knife at her belt. It goes to a small bulge in her coat. You're not sure what tiny object could be in there, that she instinctively goes towards that and neither weapon, but it is way scarier. It is terror, not horror. And you are both very put on edge by this movement, but she doesn't immediately say something like, why do you assume I need protection? Like maybe I'm the threat. What she says is, well, I don't have it on me. And she waits like she wants to see what you're going to do first. Yeah. Do you do anything or say anything? Do you have something to say in immediate response to that? Or are you going to wait for her to continue as well? This sort of like conversation standstill.
Albert's immediate reaction is to, I guess in D&D terms it would be to ready an action to step between if Keith starts throwing the gauntlet down.
That's a good call. You're more prepared
Fantastic.
for Keith to escalate than for this woman to escalate. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. Keith, do you escalate? I guess your preset options that I give you are yes, no, or a little bit.
My instinct said yes. I was going to escalate the situation, but seeing that he's starting to like come between us, I have to remember that my safety isn't just my safety in this situation. I'll say with a look of like, I'm not going to make this immediately worse for us, over to Alberth. You simply have, excuse me, you've certainly piqued interest. I suppose you've earned at least another conversation.
She nods politely and seems to consider something for a moment, and then says, I should mention, money's great. Money can get people to do things. But like I said, I knew about you ahead of time. And I know a little bit more about your situation than most, I suppose. And I should oh, we lost Miles. I'm sure he'll be back. Hey.
Oh,
Is he back?
I'm back. Sorry, Discord likes to
He's
up. I guess.
Ah, yeah, that'll happen. But yeah, she. I'm sorry, where was I? The money's great. Money can get people to do things. She says, but yeah, there's a little bit more I know about you. I'm offering more than money. I know a little bit more than most about your relationship. Hold on. I know a little bit more than most about your relationship to El Katen. And you recognize this word as the name of your wild folk patron, who has given you the powers of a predator druid. She says a lot of the casters that we're approaching, I'm offering them a direct link to a new patron or improved relationship with their current patron, because the connections that I have don't stop in this world. But what I'm offering you is different. I've met El Katen, but I don't think I can pull his strings. I think you and I both know maybe no mortal can. But what I can offer you is a chance for another hunt. She glances down at the armored stag and says, maybe one that'll hunt you back. That be something you're interested in?
Yeah, super. It's
Yeah.
in character. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I should mention at this point, I don't know if this is would be something that Keith is interested in, but you should know there is actually a type of predator druid that only hunts predator druid called an apex druid. It is a rare title achieved by few, and what she's talking about might put you one step closer to becoming an apex druid. If that's something that Keith is interested in. I don't know if you're more interested in hunting dwarves or like big, dangerous game. But if that's something that you would like to incorporate into your backstory, I offer it to you. But anyway, she starts to like back away, still keeping her eye on you, like how you back away slowly from like an animal that might bounce at you if you display weakness. Her gaze is like steady as she backs away, but she says, "Well, if that's something you'd be interested in, like I said, red mollusk this evening." And like that, unless you stop her, she backs into the foliage and leaves.
Yeah, I mean, I let her go. How about you, Albert?
Albert turns to Keith and is like, I think we should do it. I think that sounds like a great idea. And anything that brings you closer to glory that doesn't include killing dwarves is good in my book.
Oh, come on, Albert. What's up with you and not liking my killing dwarves mentality?
It's not... We could talk about that at the tavern.
I do love the kind of long-suffering sidekick vibe that we have going. And I feel bad for how long no cameras have been on Sam's character. We got to get back to Mary.
Oh, no worries.
But,
It's giving me a minute to think. I'm gonna reboot my character. I'm gonna do a bit of a retcon. We're gonna say that Marigold was very drunk, and also that he had just lost a lot of money on the ponies. He's in a bad mood.
Nice.
But after thinking it over, he's super into it. Because he's always bored, and he wants to fight his boredom, and this sounds interesting. So he's gonna very much go to the tavern.
Nice. That reminds me, there's a unique connection between two of the character attributes that you chose. There are certain things that get in the way of certain power sources. And it's a little bit Sanderson-esque how many rules there are once we dive into that, which I'm sure we will. But I should mention, when you are drunk, your mage powers are inaccessible to you. If that adds some depth, and that is not the case. Marigold has observed that is not the case for other types of casters. Sorcerers casting drunk spells all over the place. The druids, blood mages especially. They're just flicking blood magic. It's crazy. Drinking might help them. It's unclear.
But we could say that in Marigold's own experience, being drunk seems to make him better at singing, so... He thinks
Very
so.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, but I would say I'm not super sure that I want to be declared a bastard. That seems like a big step all of a sudden, and he's not sure he wants to like commit to that.
Mm-hmm.
But he heard the other rewards mentioned, and that sounds good.
Yep.
But he's thinking about it, you know.
Yeah. Marigold is waiting in the tavern. By the time... Oh my goodness, there's so many proper nouns. By the time Lady Kama returns... She waves you over, and in fact waves over another patron at the bar, a much taller, pale woman. who apparently was waiting for Kama as well. She calls you both over to the largest table in the room, much larger than you would need for 3 people. But when the tavern keeper asks her in huffy, angry tones about it, she explains that she's expecting many more guests to join you 3, and he seems placated by that. When you she seems more prepared to wait until everyone drifts in. And indeed, a tall, dark-skinned man in traditionally like cleric robes. And when I say cleric, I want to specify not a type of magic user. He just works for the church. But yeah, this man in tall robes walks in, doing the hands like in the sleeves of either robe, and kind of like nods deeply to Kama, who kind of gives him like a sup in response. And another woman, very like widely set, with weirdly like a whip at her belt. It's like, is she Indiana Jones? That is not a part of the local culture either, like the whole carrying weapons thing. That's not what's happening. She just apparently carries a whip at her side, so you're not sure if she's like an equestrian or but because Kama is gathering casters here, there's a chance that she is a flagellant, which is a type of blood mage that gains powers like literally through their own pain. It's a dark practice, and in fact, sanguine magic, or like being a blood mage, is completely outlawed in the country that you're from. It's illegal and heavily prosecuted, because at best, blood mages get their power from causing ecstasy in other people. So they throw parties and get everyone wasted and like just kind of benefit, or like get their mana essentially from revelry. But at worst, they can gain those powers from literally torturing people. And it's said that the more powerful a blood mage becomes, the less able they are to distinguish between pain and ecstasy. And it's said that some of the most like terrifying blood mages who ever lived might have thought they were helping people. Like, they just didn't realize that it was a terrible thing that they were doing. So, completely outlawed where you're from, tentatively allowed in this kingdom, but people are still not about it, understandably. That said, they're very powerful healers sometimes, so some people put up with them, so that they can run, like, hospitals. How you feel about someone, like, basically a magic torturer running a hospital is up to you. Eventually, the last 2 figures come in. Go ahead and describe your characters. Hayden first, and then, or I guess Alberth first, and then Keith is right behind him.
Cool. All right. I've been thinking of like a visual. Well, I guess. How different from humans do druids look?
Not very different. If people didn't know you were druids, they would think that Alberth was just pretty attractive, and Keith walked like a creeper. Just kind of.
So are we almost like kind of like Twilight vampires, almost like different, but not necessarily inhuman?
Yeah. You look like slightly altered humans for sure.
Oh. Well, Alberth is definitely a short king, like 5'8".
I was about to say that, and then I was like, I should leave it up to him what height his character is. I was definitely going to describe like a short, plucky man, and then like a large, stalking figure coming in after him who looks like an anime protagonist. But I'll
okay, this is good. Because I have in my head the visual of, let me see if I can Google it really quick. Legend of Zelda. What are those the leaf people called?
Gogurok?
Yeah.
Kokiri?
Kokiri. Short
Should I look it up so it can be on the shared screen?
Yeah.
Kokiri people. That's my search term. All right, let's click on images. Let's gamble our Twitch channel.
Are we gonna get banned first session? Let's who knows?
Okay, we're good.
I'm thinking more the Wind Waker. I think that there's a round one, and then a super tall, lanky one, and that's kind of the
Is there a specific character?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember it, but I'm thinking the dynamic of what the portal to co-op.
Oh yeah.
Atlas and Peabody. That's kind of the vibe that I'm picturing as both of us walking.
Wait, which one's which?
I'm the short, stout one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that, especially because we're in a fantasy world, and so far Albert's mannerisms very Hobbit. So the fact that you're also going to be a short king, and that you're traveling the world just like looking for new things to eat and drink and and experience, very very Hobbit vibes all around. I like it. And last of all, how is he dressed after this 3-day hunt? I guess.
I'm gonna say first thing he did was trade some of his half of the chitin armor for a sick red jacket.
Right on.
So he probably hasn't really changed anything, but he's got a new fresh red coat on.
Nice.
And he's very excited about it.
Right on. There is Albert the Red. Just kidding. He's not the Red. You're just wearing red. What does Keith look like behind him?
Yeah, tall. A little bit disproportionately longer arms and legs. So kind of gives that weird prowl vibe everywhere he walks, like a little creeper boy apparently. But yeah, I'm probably just wearing mostly leathers or furs, just overall, scavenged from animals that I've conquered, and but definitely pretty strong. I've been a blacksmith since forever apparently, so I've got some good build going on, and just dark as I can get, I guess.
Yeah, we've accidentally created a D&D barbarian just by having him be a hunter who wears the skins of the things that he kills, and also be built like a blacksmith. That's just textbook barbarian, just really broad chest, with the very cool. Sweet. And Marigold, when they walk in, what does the estranged nobleman at the end of the table look like?
So I'm gonna say he's medium tall, pretty thin, because he's not gonna be a physical character, mage, he's an estranged nobleman. I have money, but okay, so all my clothes are gonna be more of the more fit in in a tavern type clothes. There's no lace or gold trim or any of that stuff, but I have some white trousers, and I'm very meticulous about keeping them clean. So they're normal trousers, but they're straight white, and just the fact that they're always clean is kind of a statement. And then I'm gonna have a black coat with a teal green shirt. And those are my colors.
Right on. Sweet. Yeah, and the woman at the end of the bar, or at the end of the table, Kama says, "All right, I've gathered you all here to protect a caravan. That's all you know. But there is one more thing you should know. I don't know if you've heard the announcement from this morning, but the royal archmage Duke Visica has died, and he's predicted the queen's death. We're here to prevent it. And I should mention as well, I'm not comma or lady comma, I'm Vizier comma. Let's get to work. And she lays out the plan. And we'll get to that next week, because it took a long time to create these characters, which I'm happy with, because I think that we created a sweet cast of characters here. I'm really excited about this, guys. I know we haven't gotten the chance to, like, deep dive into the magic system. It's mostly been, like, character work and, like, intro kind of stuff. But I'm very excited.
Should be.
Yeah, yeah. This is a great introductory session. I'm excited about... I'm excited about Alberth, the charismatic kind of support druid. I'm excited about Keith, the prowling hunter druid who kind of wants to double down on a genocide, but like not in a straight up evil way, just kind of a little lightly selfish way. And I'm excited about Marigold McCarlin, the foreign nobleman who's going to shake up our worlds with magical and musical knowledge. I'm excited. I'm excited for this campaign going forward, and I'm excited to see you, Twitch chat, next week. That's right. I haven't acknowledged you for 2 hours.
Can we shout out the people that are in here?
There's people in here?
Yeah.
Fantastic. What's up, chat? Are you sure it's not just us on our phones? Because I've got my phone right here.
That pulled up as well.
We should all sound off. I'm HD Parks in there.
I'm Low Templar. Hi.
Well,
Wait, are people
hey,
talking in chat?
Yeah.
Or can you see the names of everyone watching? We don't need to put them on the spot. I'll check later what our viewer count was. Hi, if you're not one of us, this crazy that you're here. I'm so happy that you are. Welcome. Thank you for watching 2 hours of character work that will eventually become a plot starting next week. We love you.
We love you, Syndica. We love you, Ice Wizards.
Thanks for coming. All right. Sweet. Anything else to say before we stop streaming?
Thanks for watching.
Did we record?
Yeah, I'm recording right now. Hopefully I had enough space this whole time. If not, those 2 people you just shouted out, the only 2 people not in the group to ever see any of this, which is, like, rock on.
Yep.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks for coming. Bye, chat.